agenda modifications at this point?
No, sir. I do note that the ratification item is being or has been distributed to each of your chairs. This is ratifying the workshop action that you took that effectively was scheduling another workshop.
Okay.
But I do note that. That's the only modification. The only thing beyond that is, again, per your telephonic participation policy, having authority please be granted to Commissioner Caban to participate.
We will take that vote. I understand that he has not gotten to his destination yet.
Okay.
So probably will not be able to, but let's go ahead and take the vote just in an abundance of caution. There's a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. And so if Commissioner Caban is able to get on the phone, we'll allow him to participate.
Mr. Chair, did I hear Mr. Pendergree say that we have a handout or something at our chair?
It should be forthcoming. If not, I believe it's being printed. Nope, it's being distributed now.
Okay.
All right, and I think we've got some citizens to be heard.
Yes, sir. There were no requests.
Thank you.
Sorry, there were no requests for WebEx participation.
Okay.
I do note to anybody in the audience that wishes to speak, there's comment cards outside. Please fill those out. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you ready to hear the speakers?
Okay, how many do we have in person?
11.
Okay, we've got 11 speakers, and so we'll go ahead and get started with our in-person speakers. Who is our first speaker?
Our first speaker is Robert Blackledge, followed by Max Epstein, and then Stanley Sims.
All right, Mr. Blackledge, welcome. Glad to have you. You give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you. My name is Robert Blackledge, Leon County. I'm the Executive Director of Dummy Station Incubator here in town, where we've been able to help support entrepreneurs since 2014 through a partnership with the county and a county-owned building near the new Visit Tallahassee building. We've been able to make an impact with over 300 startups and over 750,000 entrepreneurs with almost $27.5 million in investments. Our goal is to have $100 billion of economic impact by 2030. The virtual program that we provides entrepreneurs with education, early stage startup and small business owners who are close to receiving, who have launched or recently are about to launch. This program is 6 months long, is self-guided as well as guided curriculum that focuses on financial, legal, considerations, team formations, idea validation, sales, marketing, pitch, and presentation. Our program has been received and it really impacted our community. In 2022, we saw almost $100 million of economic impact in the ecosystem, and we look to continue and scale that. We serve a majority of minority-owned businesses as well as individuals who are in their mid to late careers. So these are individuals that are working or have just recently retired. As a central ecosystem, we see ourselves as the top of the funnel. We bring in individuals who may have an interest or are interested or are launching a business, and we help guide them through the resources here in our ecosystem and beyond, partnering with individuals like FAMU, FSU, TCC, and many others across the ecosystem and beyond. Currently, we see an average of 150 entrepreneurs a year, and about 60% of those, again, are minority or women-owned businesses. We're hoping to propose a project with OEB that will allow us to scale upon these impacts and reach individuals who we have not been able to reach before due to capacity issues within our organization. This scaling factor will allow us to reach even more individuals and grow that economic impact for our community. In 2022, I mentioned that we had almost $100 million of economic impact. We spent about $318,000 to do that, about $33,000 for every dollar spent to create that economic impact. It's a hugely advantageous program, but we'd like to do more. We want to do more, and we can do more.
Okay.
30
Thank
seconds.
you. Next speaker. Thanks, Rick.
Our next speaker is Max Epstein, followed by Stanley Sims, then Susan Dickerson.
Hello, Max Epstein, 1001 San Luis Road. Mayor Daley, first of all, thank you for your leadership. I look forward to the budget discussion. It's very important. Here, I'm to talk about Capital Cascades 4. I would like to request that that is also included in that budget discussion because it's not on the list of projects, respectfully. Would like to see a history of that project, especially since it's a Blueprint 2000 project that has not been finished. It originally had a budget of up to $38 million. Now it's down to $20 million, and we really need to look at this from a holistic perspective. I'd like to request that that be brought back at the budget meeting. Also, there was supposed to be an agenda item for Capital Cascades 4 brought back. I remember saying that the engineers were going to be here to answer questions. Now the packet says that you're moving on to permitting without even discussing it. So I'd like to see that come back if possible. Just to share a couple other things, I did a records request for the airport gateway and found that there are 5 stormwater ponds planned for Spring Hill Road in the area where the Capital Cascades sector plan identified projects. Part of that sector plan where Jake Gaither and other neighborhoods are to the east are also not being covered by the Cascades 4 infrastructure. And I'd also like to commend the city on moving forward with this brownfield for the airport gateway. Amazing. It's basically what I've been asking for a long time. It does need to move a little bit further east and north, but excellent work. But these 2 projects need to be looked at together. And you have more stormwater ponds for the airport gateway right now in the same area where Cascades 4 was supposed to be than you have for FAMU Way. And they're not being looked at together. And since you're not following federal guidelines and going after federal funding, the notification to the landowners who may experience eminent domain, the Church of Christ on Spring Hill Road is going to be seriously impacted by this project. People need to know about this stuff now. So I would appreciate if you brought that back at the budget meeting, Capital Cascades 4. And I'd also like to see that come back as an agenda item or a workshop that we talked about for Lake Munson, all the stormwater
30 seconds.
down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Sims.
I'm Stanley Sims at 1320 Avondale Way. It's good to be here today. It's not as cold in here right now as it was earlier, but I was just speaking to County Commissioner Welch. I just had a lady just the other day tell me, she said, Mr. Sims, I don't know how you're going to take this, but every time the East and the Northwest get some money, it ain't like we stole it from the South Side. And that really set a precedence with me. And so I think that, you know, Mr. Welch, thank you for bringing that up because that perception is really wrong. We don't hijack every dollar. And especially when it comes to parks, there's an inequity in parks on the northeast side than on the south side. And so I'm glad to hear that. My next thing is, I've spoke with Mr. Keith Byers. I think there needs to be clarity on how we introduce our proposals during a infrastructure meeting or during a economic development meeting. It needs to be communicated to us as small businesses. When do we bring these proposals in? The third thing that I'm a little curious about, when you talk about deficit reduction. Now, I just heard that today coming from the mayor. Now, normally when things are tagged one way, they usually go in a different direction. And usually when you talk about deficit reduction, first thing that hangs is human capital. I've been saying this for a very long time. Maybe Commissioner Proctor will get known for the fairground. I don't want to be known for the citizen who is advocating for Tharp Street to be safe for our children to walk on. That's just not small children. That's also college kids. That's also senior citizens who are walking their children to those daycares. We see the trenches in there. So I do not want Tharp Street to be touched by deficit. That is We're blessed that nothing traumatic has happened in those areas. I am excited for the type of dialogue that I'm expected to hear in this 9 o'clock meeting. And I'm also asking that if you would make an agenda
30
to
seconds.
staff, that you would break the talks out so that our comments are more fitting to the conversation than germane. Your agendas for these meetings are very germane. And we as citizens, because we have to speak first, we can't speak to some of the things that you all have a whole packet of that you know that you're going to bring up. So those are just some points of information that I wish that
Time.
you all would take into consideration. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Mr. Sims. Our next speaker.
That is our last unagended item, Speaker.
Okay. Now, I understand that we have speakers that are here for specific items.
That is correct, sir.
If you are, then I will give you the option to speak now, or you can speak when we get to that item. What's your, on the item? Okay, all right. We're on item number 3, informational items and presentations. Mr. Pingree?
Yes, just quickly, Mr. Chairman, just note that the receipt and file has 2 informational items as reflected on the screen.
Okay, and we don't need to take any action on
sir.
that. All right,
Mr.
we're,
Chair? I don't know if this young man wanted to speak, but he's standing there.
an unagended?
My apologies, there are 2 mixed up in here.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and, since you all are unagended, let's go ahead and take those
My
speakers.
apologies. Next is Dustin Rivest, followed by Shauna Smith.
All right, we apologize for that, but
No worries. Good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, Mayor Daley. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dustin Rivest. I'm also here with Hinton Battle on behalf of Foodies Takeout and Delivery, which I am the CEO of. We're a software as a service company that provides online ordering solutions to our local restaurants when it comes to pickup and delivery. What makes us special is our unique value proposition to restaurants, consumers, and our local economy. Our services are 100% free to the restaurants. That's right. We can have the restaurant's food delivered to their consumers' doorsteps without having to pay 20 to 30% of the normal commission through these third-party companies. For a quick example, let's say you order pizza from Gain Street Pies on the DoorDash app, Grubhub, or Uber Eats. The restaurant will have to pay 25%, sometimes 30% commission, straight to DoorDash, and the consumer will still have to pay a delivery fee. Think about that for a second. Every single order in our community right now that's placed on DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Bite Squad, all of those, 20 to 30% of that money is leaving our community. It's leaving our restaurants' pockets. My estimates will show that our community is sending more than $5 million a year to these third-party companies, which not one single one is based out of Florida. They're all in California. So how do we fix this issue and keep more money in our restaurants' pockets? It's quite simple. We onboard them onto our Foodies Takeout and Delivery marketplace and promote this marketplace to our citizens as a place for them to go before DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats. When a user orders from our marketplace, we take the order and send it out to bid to the third-party drivers that are already driving out there. Within 2 seconds, we receive a quote from every single carrier to have that order delivered. We simply take the cheapest rate and we apply it at checkout for the consumer to pay, who's already used to paying a delivery fee. Because the order started on our marketplace or the restaurant's website, there's no commission that has to be paid. We all know that restaurants already operate on razor-thin margins. Just imagine if a restaurant could save 10%, just 10%. Maybe they could invest in that new piece of equipment they've been saving up for, just haven't been able to pull the trigger on. Maybe they can pay their employees a little bit more. Maybe they can spend a little bit of marketing to drive more business. Maybe for some of our small minority-owned businesses that are open 7 days a week, maybe they could actually take a day off because they made a little bit more the other 6 days of the week. Imagine the impact there. Either way, helping restaurants save a percentage is a win-win, not only for restaurants, but our community as well. Currently, we have more than 25 restaurants using our platform, generating an economic savings of over $15,000 a month just by cutting out the delivery commissions. That's today, each and every month. Commissioners, today I ask each of you to consider referring a project proposal
30 seconds.
to be fully vetted out by the Office of Economic Vitality. Our proposal will not only save restaurants money, but it will keep a tremendous amount of dollars circulating in our local economy. Not to mention, our roadmap has our company hiring 20 to 30 new drivers, our drivers, in the next 12 months. We believe that if our project ultimately gets accepted, we will be able to show a tangible and trackable return for our partnership that benefits the restaurants, citizens, and our economy. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Speaker is Shauna Smith.
All right, Ms. Smith?
Point of information, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
With my newness, if we want to make a motion for that, we wait to director comments?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
thank you.
that's our plan. All right.
Name and address for the record, please.
Princess Shauna, Shauna Smith, 814 Apache Street here in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm here representing the Capitol Park Action Committee, which I, along with coaches, players, families that play at the Capitol Park field, neighbors, and others outside of the South Side, decided we needed to form because we needed to have a voice. We needed to let you know that we're very concerned, we're very interested. We would like to see a state-of-the-art, I'm not going to open that up. We just would like to see a state-of-the-art facility out there. We have 2 parks, 2 fields that are located together. And right now, as I said earlier, it's kind of like walking in Jurassic Park out there. There is a community bathroom with 2 stalls that sits so back in the woods, not lighted. Nobody goes back there. The 2 bathroom stalls we have at each field are cleaned by us. There's no shaded covering over the viewing area. The balls often go out in the woods and they never return. We never can find them. So I'm here representing that entity. I'd also like to say that one of the things I have issue with as I was looking through all these projects was language and consistency in terms of reporting about updates on the projects. The only project that had the term master plan was the fairground project. And then others had planning, and the language and the verbiage of a layperson as myself trying to interpret and make sure I'm accurately understanding needs to be cleared up. There was a lot of inconsistency in terms, especially on the timeline stuff. The Fairgrounds Park was the only one that had the thing that said master plan. I still don't know what that is, and maybe this I'll find out later, but I do want to say that we would like equity. We want the South Side to not just be for South Side, we want it to be a destination place where people want to come, want to bring their teams to play.
30 seconds.
So I just wanted to pause with this final statement. I was privileged the other day to meet the new athletic director at FAMU. Historic athletic director. She's the first female athletic director at the university. And I was sharing some of my thoughts about this park and what she said to me. She said, "You've got to fight for it." She said, because it was through my playing sports that I was able to gain access to higher education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Mr. Chair, I just want to point to that was my English professor at Florida A&M right there. I know she looks very young, and she is, but those things that she was telling us about, she went through and she graded us, is what she was doing. So we got to do better because she's paying attention.
I got you.
Was you a good student in class?
All right. Did we have any more unagended speakers? Okay, any more unagended speakers before we get to our items? And then if you are here to speak on an item on the agenda, we'll give you an opportunity to speak when we get to that item. All right, with that, then we're on items of consent. We've got 3 items of consent, and we'll take them all in one fell swoop.
Second.
As a motion by Board Member Daley, seconded by Board Member Cox. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. We are now on Roman numeral 5, item number 4, authorization to advertise and award construction services for the Market District placemaking project. Mr. Pingree.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we do have a brief presentation if you would like it, but this builds on years of prior work and direction and funding provided by the IA board, and it does substantially, it moves us into construction, primarily on the park and the related placemaking activities around it. Options 1 and 2 are being recommended, and that would move forward with the procurement in accordance with your blueprint purchasing policy. It would also authorize a JPA for additional parking adjacent to the new park at Market District. Again, happy to answer any questions and happy to provide a more lengthy presentation if you would like that.
All right, do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, sir, we have one,
Okay.
Max Epstein.
All right, Mr. Epstein.
Hey, y'all, 1001 San Luis Road. This item, you know, we're having cost increases across the board. All these projects, inflation, all-time highs, interest rates at an all-time high. And if you look at the economic history of our country, when interest rates get hiked to where they are, they reach their terminal top, there's almost always a recession. Actually, there is always a recession that follows. Is it a year later? Is it 18 months? Is it 6 months? It always happens. And that is a disinflationary event. That means most likely costs come down, rates will come down, debt becomes cheaper, labor becomes cheaper, and unfortunately, yeah, your house is probably going to become cheaper. I just want to look at all of these objects, all these projects, especially at that meeting that we're going to have, and we cut parts out. Can we stay within the original budget? I certainly don't agree with taking away conservation and recreation for Lake Lafayette for this, because I doubt any of the neighbors up there know that their regional park is being defunded and it might come back in 15 years. That's not a good way to push this project forward. Is there a way to do a phasing of it again? Can we cut out $1 million here? Do we need a sidewalk around both of the stormwater ponds? You know, one has a fence up. If it were me, I'd keep the fence up. It's not really a place you want to be bringing your kids and your dogs. So, you know, I obviously support this, but if it were me up there, I'd ask for more information and to see how costs can be cut potentially, and look at that at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the
No
only
other
speaker
speakers on
on that item? Okay. Board members, discussion?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Board Member Welch, Board Member O'Keefe, and Board Member Minor in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another Northeast Leon County sort of I-10 area project. It is, really want to commend our staff. This is really a beautiful project that really serves a otherwise blighted area, frankly, if you're familiar with it. I mean, it looks terrible currently. And we have invested money, as we see, in the revitalization of the Market District. You know, close to I-10, an ideal location. You've seen significant private sector investment along with that public investment. You've got a new Spring Hill Suites right there at the interstate. There's an REI that just opened there, which is extremely popular. You've got a tremendous amount of investment following investment, and this Market District Park will be the centerpiece of that district. You know, pickleball, open space, playground, water feature. This really is a great project. Again, covered in the budget with the revenue projections. So I would like to very proudly recommend or make a motion for staff recommendations 1 and 2.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
Discussion.
Board Member O'Keefe. Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at this the plan for this. This looks like an amazing placemaking, and when I'm up there spending way too much money at REI, I'll enjoy it. But I take issue not with this project, but I have a couple questions that need answering for me. This project contemplated in the budget workshop that it needed $3.4 million to be swept from Lafayette, Lake Lafayette and St. Mark's Trail. One of my questions for staff is, that has not been done. We didn't decide to do that yet. Do you still have enough funding? And if we approve you to go out and get a bid and everything, are you able to do that without having that $3.4 million?
Mr. Pingree?
In accordance with our procurement policy, we must have a full budget before we're actually able to implement the direction of the IA board to proceed with the RFP process. It's still germane and appropriate for options number 1 and number 2. What we would do simply is await the budget to become complete for this project before issuing the RFP. So in other words, wait for your budget workshop to conclude and the actions to be taken by the IA board to fully fund this project.
And because this is in the future, we don't know what the budget approvals will be. If we do not approve in the budget in the future, that $3.4 million sweep, what would happen to this action if we approved it?
Well, I don't want to prognosticate. We would have to bring it back for future board direction at that point because we would have had an approval for amount that was not budgeted by the IA board as anticipated.
Thank you. And so my issue with this is not with the park. My issue with this is the cart and the horse backwards because Lake Lafayette and the St. Mark's Trail project in District 5 is very important and is part of a necessary future development for that area out Appalachia Park. And I understand that the original plan to run the trail out to St. Mark's Head and Appalachia Regional Park was to go sort of over and through the woods to Grandma's house, and that's not feasible anymore. But right there, that's a stretch of Highway 27, Appalachia Parkway, from Conner Boulevard out to the Appalachia region, to the regional park that has no sidewalks, no lights, and is a consistent complaint from our constituents, especially now that we are having in process and in for approval hundreds of new development units out there, that we should keep the money in the Lake Lafayette Trail and have staff evaluate a creative use for that to extend that trail to meet our objective of connecting the parks around Tom Brown and therefore near Conner Boulevard to trails all the way out to Appalachia Regional Park. And out of interest of not confusing things, I won't make a motion to that effect right now, but I want to make it clear that I can't support the motion as it is because it assumes we're going to take a budget action that sweeps money out of a project that we haven't yet been able to discuss in detail, which I have great interest in doing. While selfishly I think a motion would be best for me, I'm going to just leave that there and let discussion continue for the sake of not blowing up our process.
Okay. All right. Board Member Minor and then Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this agenda item highlights one of the great projects that Blueprint has been working on. This is a tremendous project. I think many of us are excited to see this move forward. I share, though, the same kind of thoughts that Commissioner O'Keefe does. I support the project, but I think it might be premature for us to move forward with, as the mayor has hinted at, a legally binding action when we haven't discussed what the additional money for the rest of the budget and the projects is going to have, right? By doing this, you can strain our ability to make decisions on the remaining projects. What I would do, as much as I support the project, I'd like to table this until June 15th, because then we'll be able to take a look at a clean slate, take a look at everything, the projects that we've been talking about, having information on, seeing a breakdown of the price increases on each of these projects, and then have everything at our disposal, and then have the freedom to make the decisions that we need to make. I can see us, in fact, I'm quite sure we'll approve this agenda item in some form on June 15th, should this motion to table move forward. So that'd be my motion, is a substitute motion.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Commissioner Welch, I think it's a good project. I think it's great for not just his district, but the entire community. But I'd like to have a substitute motion to table until June 15th, and we can decide within the context of everything else.
There is a substitute motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the substitute motion?
Mr. Chair, if I can clarify just for a second. I know that some of the commissioners have used the term legally binding action. I think we need to be very careful with that because the board can, under Robert's rules, you are a strict Robert's rules procedure under your bylaws. So you do have the ability to amend something previously adopted. And we've done that in other cases. So I just want to put that out there, make sure you know that, there's not going to be an arrest warrant or something issued because you vote another way or the board receives new information and goes into a different direction.
Meaning that if we voted for this item today
Yes,
and we
sir.
come back at the workshop and say, well, we think we ought to cut 500,000 from that, that can be done, legally done if it's the will of the board.
Yes, sir, that's a
Okay.
proper procedure under Robert's rules. And there's precedent for that, and that's also in Robert's rules. You've done that before
Okay.
in funding situations.
All right. Any other discussion?
Mr. Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
I had you in queue. Did you still want to?
I do. I think it's a great project. I support it. I got a question. Mr. Pingree, have we ever had any discussion? Let me get technical. So we got the new hotel that just went up, okay, right there at REI, which is going to bring a lot of foot traffic into Market Street. I think, Commissioner Welch, I think you've done it, probably a couple of others. Have y'all been out to meet with the Market Square leadership?
Yeah.
And so you got that little strip of that abandoned road right next to Bank of America. You got that little holding pond that you can't do anything else with right back there. But it's the green space idea connecting Market Square to the park. And then, of course, the park connects to our entire Greenway Trail system. Mr. Pingree, have we ever, I can't remember, honestly, have we ever considered the acquisition of that little piece to make the final connecting piece? Mr. Welch, am I making sense? You know what I'm talking about?
Mr. Chair, may I? I do know what you're talking about.
Member Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I do know what you're talking about. I can't, in my mind, picture the connectivity you're talking about without walking on concrete.
Right.
It's not like a green, but I do know the little space behind the Market District that's kind of a unkempt, sort of unfinished, almost a hazardous kind of area.
Right.
Small area, but I do know that's what I assume that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. Mr. Pingree, we haven't ever had a conversation about that little piece, have we?
I'm going to turn it over to Autumn. I think you're talking about what's currently a stormwater facility by Sunny's?
Yes.
That's what I.
The one by Sunny's?
It's that little walk, it's like a
kinda
little
like
driveway next to
walked
Bank
in
of
the-
America.
I think we did look at it. I'm going to turn it over to Autumn for further detail.
Yeah, I don't, Blueprint staff has looked at it, but I don't believe we've had the discussion at the IA board level. The Blueprint project is to implement the placemaking action plan, which was adopted in 2011.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
That component was not included in the placemaking plan, as I'm sure it wasn't an idea at that time in 2011. But our project is to implement the park and the pedestrian and connectivity improvements around the placemaking district.
Excellent. Well, I support the motion. I think this is a great project. We've been kicking around this idea literally since, remind me, Autumn, 2011? Right.
You're supporting the motion to table. We're on the motion to table.
No, I support Commissioner Welch's motion, the original motion that I seconded, and I'm ready to move forward with it. I think it's a great project.
We're on the motion to table at this point.
I know. I do not support the motion to table. I
Okay.
support the original motion, and I'm arguing why I think the substitute motion should be defeated.
Okay.
This has been voted upon. It's been approved. It's been in the works from 2011. We've worked with all the neighborhoods around it. It connects to our greenways. It's a water quality project as well, along with recreation that boosts the economic development of the area. And I think this is why Blueprint was created for projects like this.
We got you. Board Member Matlow, followed by Board Member Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. I'm going to support the original motion. I understand the questions of where's the money going to come from and how's it going to be funded and what it is, but we can move forward today. If on June 15th we don't give this project, I think, is it 16 million? we decide it's less, it's not going to move forward no matter what this action is. It has to be funded. So when we look at the budget holistically, if we don't fund a project, it's not moving forward. So all of these projects that have been going are moving forward as is, unless we decide otherwise in a budget conversation that it's not the time to fund it. So I just think whether we take this action today or we take it June is really inconsequential if it's a project that's moving forward. And there's the second half of this is the agreement to work with the city for the parking situation as well, which really isn't a budget impact, but does require the joint cooperation of both entities to keep this moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Board Member Welch, and then Board Member Proctor, and then we'll bring this thing in.
Thank you,
for a
Mr. Chair.
landing.
Commissioner Minor and Commissioner O'Keefe, I completely understand your concern, and I feel like, as we've previously mentioned, this type of project and the Northeast Park, frankly, these are quality of life amenity improvements. This is not a gateway project. The cost of these projects in relation to those big gateway projects is pales in comparison, right? And so if we're going to come back in June and look at these items one by one, the biggest projects are the gateway projects. The biggest increases are the gateway projects. And so with that being said, I am comfortable with my motion, and I can't support your substitute, but I want to commit to you both that if we start looking at it and we're all acting in good faith, then, we can find a compromise, I would like to think, especially if we look at the gigantic budgets of the gateway projects. And as the mayor said earlier, we're talking about concrete and gravel, and that stuff adds up real quick. And so landscaping, I think there are ways that we can massage these quality of life. I mean, again, I put a premium on the quality of life projects. These are, my focus out on this board and in this elected position is that I am not against public sector development. I am not against private sector development. I want to make sure that our quality of life is protected as we grow, as we invest in public infrastructure. And it can't just be all roads. It has to be things like this, because this is why people want to live here. People need parks, people need open space, and I can tell you, the folks that I talk to are extremely excited about this project.
Yeah,
so
they are.
I want to, again, commit myself to the idea that we can probably, we're not talking about $50 or $60 million, right? We're talking about $4 or $5 million for Lafayette Trail, and I understand that those are important. Absolutely, that's also a quality of life kind of amenity, right? So I feel like between those, we can figure that out. I just wanted to state that to you in my commentary that I can't support your substitute motion, but it's only because, like Commissioner Matlow said, if we're going to have this conversation in June, I think I want it on the record that these types of projects really are all of our bread and butter. I mean, this is where we really improve the quality of life of our community, okay? And so I think that it deserves being said. So I will support the original motion if this one does not make it. Thank you.
Board Members Proctor and Cummings. And then
Thank you,
we'll
Mr.
take a
Chairman.
vote on the motion to table.
My patience, I'm almost thinking that anybody can represent District 4 on the county commission. I'm thinking that. And I say that against the backdrop of a career that's been staked against not being afforded to see and have luxury. To call the park there, up there on, what's the name of this thing? Up there. That is something that's just horrible. Look down in the market area is not horrific, but the District 4 commissioner has the luxury to call it that. Contrasted to the brand new Bannerman shopping area up there on Thomasville and Bannerman, and all of that brand new, and that marketplace looks bad. But I invite you to come down, Commissioner Welch. If you're putting something down in your own district, I wouldn't, but come down to Save a Lot. marketplace. Come down to Piggly Wiggly marketplace. Come down to the flea markets marketplace. Come down to Brevard Street and Macomb marketplace. Come down to Meridian and Orange Avenue for the marketplace. Come down to Paris Street for a marketplace. Come down to 4th Avenue and Old Bainbridge Road and look at some places. What you're talking about looks bad and is hard. Come down to my district. I don't have the luxury to call anything. It's just bad. That's a decent enough place. It's not Bannerman Road and all the bells and whistles with the newness, but the mayor gave us a motion. It seemed like he was placing a cease and desist on our selectively choosing any projects. The mayor gave a motion at the workshop that seemed to suggest a moratorium. That's what Mr. Minor is saying, that we agreed that we would not, but I think Commissioner Matlow gave a very persuasive argument to say that even if we agree and we step outside of what we just agreed not to do, well, it can't go forward until we approve the overall budget, which is a very persuasive line of thinking. That's not what we agreed to do. But commissioners, I have to say that when you can look down on your own districts, that the marketplace is raggedy and all of that, and you come down to District 1, and you're still trying to get sewer pipes in the ground. Come down to District 1, and you're trying to get indoor plumbing at a very public place, the fairground. Just that galls me. And you have the luxury in this funding for what happens up on Bannerman, this funding for Marketplace, it's on automatic pilot. Mickey Mouse could come up there and get elected, because we're going to go in that direction because of that area and who lives there, and to get every damn thing that is desired. And there's never brakes applied. There's never a slowdown applied. How do you speed up the fairground? How do you get a bathroom? What happens on our parks? You know? So I'm just frustrated to hear this district commissioner woofing off about blah, 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 blah. And then we said we'd have a moratorium. And then we come right back and say, no, we're going to take care of this business right here, right here, right here. Guys, we can't speak with forked tongues and have credibility even among ourselves. So I was operating under the same context of thought offered by Commissioner Minor. We're deviating from it and frustrated. And this park is going to get it no matter whose voice is raised for it. It's just located correctly. And perhaps no matter who is advocating for a different side of town, it ain't going to happen because of who lives there, who ain't rather there. Mr. Chairman, I had to say those things because it hurt me. It hurts me to feel the ease with which Welch has the luxury to call his market trashed and it's just ugly and unsightful. So he should live where I live sometimes.
Mr. Chair, may I respond to that?
In response, I have to give you that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Commissioner Proctor, to the extent that you felt I was being insensitive to my own district, I apologize. I assure you I was not. My point in making my statements was to communicate to Commissioner Minor and Commissioner O'Keefe that, as Commissioner Matlow said, it would appear that these items will have to come back for ratification or for a budget discussion, which begs the question of the earlier questions in the budget workshop. So I'm certainly not ragging on my district, and I don't feel like I have any luxuries to say that. I was simply making the point that this is a relatively small-scale project in the big scheme of our budget, and these are the kinds of quality of life amenities like the fairgrounds improvements that I will support wholeheartedly. I don't care where they are. I don't look down my nose at anybody's community, at any district, at any project in my own district. I'm simply supporting the notion that Commissioner Matlow said, which is it's going to move forward. It makes no difference. This conversation is going to have to be had again about budget. And so my point again is looking at, is there something we can cut from this little micro pocket park that assists the quality of life amenity that Commissioner Minor and Commissioner O'Keefe are mentioning at Lake Lafayette? So again, I apologize if you feel slighted in any way by those comments. That was not my intent. I want to work with everybody on the up and up. I have no ill will towards anybody. This project is at the what I thought was the last stop. And, with the motion, I guess, that was made earlier, we are back at this talking about the budget. So my comments, again, were just a commitment to work with my colleagues to try and find compromise. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just real fast, I just want to state that quality of life word, we're just struggling for life, city sewer, possibly one day, bathrooms inside. We're just struggling for life. We have not got to the quality of it. And I'm searching for life more abundantly even, but we're just wanting life. And we're not able to, and if you just go to the flea market in terms of where people in the South Side go and see it raining and look at dirt, it's just a flashpoint, Commissioner, with what we really are living with for infrastructure, and the marketplace would be a tremendous step up in our lives. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Board Member Cummings and then Porter.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no doubt that on June the 5th, when we look holistically at all the projects that Blueprint has in the pipes, and when we look at the progression of where they are from beginning now to the end, that we will make some adjustments as a board, and I think perhaps we should. And I think Commissioner Minor's point about equity, and he gave us his little map, but I agree that if we're looking at equity throughout the county, northeast, southwest, I think we have to look a little beyond the numbers that we have, and I think Commissioner Williams-Cox said it best, that we have to look from a historical standpoint, not just a snapshot of what we have today. And I feel confident that this board will be able to do that. I think we all have the best interest of the citizens at heart. It doesn't matter whether it's north side or south side, but I think when you look at certain areas that are considered, not just considered, but are and historically have been marginalized, we have to look at those areas with a different lens. We really do. But this particular item before us, I think staff has done a real good job of working through this project. It's not a new project. They're at the point now of asking for permission to advertise, award construction services for this particular project, and I just want to commend them for bringing it to us. I think it's needed in that area. I think perhaps on June the 5th, we might redress it.
15th.
The 15th, I'm sorry, I keep saying the 5th, I'm sorry.
Confused.
On June the 15th, we might look at it again, but I think they've crossed all the Ts, dotted all the Is. It looks really good. I think it will be an improvement to that Market Street district, and to the extent that we can approve this recommendation at this point. I'm comfortable in doing that, knowing that, from a holistic standpoint, it can be addressed and brought up when we have our workshop as recommended and approved by this body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Board Member Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a quick question for either Autumn or Ben. I mean, as far as the timeline we're talking about here, it seems like if we do move forward today, that it's not as if construction is going to start, before September, and that if there are any changes that we make in June or when we finalize the budget, that can be accommodated if it needs to be, correct? I mean, when we bid this out. So we're not, as you said, making a legally binding decision that we cannot change if we decide to move forward today.
Right.
I just want clarification on that.
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, I'll just say, I understand how it can seem like we've taken one action and another. I agree that with as many projects as we're discussing and with the relatively, it's a significant investment, but compared to some of the other projects, I think it makes sense to keep this moving forward. I've been on a tour with the folks. It's been 2 years now, I think. So I know people are really excited about it. And I would be curious, just even if it's just an email, to see what discussions staff have had on purchasing that area behind the Sunnies. Not that I'm recommending we should. I'm just curious what what that's been like, because I know that was sort of a sore spot in this. But I agree with the discussion just generally that we're having. I mean, we are where we are in this process, and I think equity is critical and has definitely not always been the case. And I think we are making efforts to correct that. So I just wanted to get that clarifying question answered and express my support as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Board Member Cox, and then let's go ahead and bring this in for a landing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Beat this horse to
It's
death.
not often that I get the last word on things, but I appreciate that.
All right.
I wanted to ask this question. Based on how we respond to this one, what is the impact on the next item?
Well, let's discuss that when we get to it.
Well,
I see where you're going with that.
And the reason I'm asking that now, before we get to the next one, is if we do this here, then we can do it here. So I want to know before I make my decision what I'm doing, and because I want to be consistent.
Well, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but they, of course, they're two separate items.
Right.
And there has been some discussion on the Northeast Park, and I think it would be appropriate to take that item individually. If we want to continue it until we've had the further budget discussion, we might want to consider that, because it is a significant budget increase for that. So when we get to that, if it's depend on the direction that the board wants to go.
Okay.
Okay? All right, we're on the motion to table. Is there, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We need a roll call.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
The motion, this is to table. I thought we were going with
I wasn't
the
sure
original.
what was on the table, I'm sorry.
It's the substitute motion.
Yeah, to table the substitute motion. Does everybody understand that's where we
The
are?
motion is to table.
Right, the substitute motion was to table the original motion.
Table the item, Mr. Chair.
Table the item until June.
Right.
If it's beneficial, the substitute motion that you're about to vote on in a brief moment is to table this item until your June IA meeting as regularly scheduled.
Right.
Mr. Chair, may I request a roll call?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Thanks, sir.
And if we choose not to table, then we go to the original motion to go forward with the project, which can be changed when we get to our June 15th workshop. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Daley?
No.
Commissioner Matlow?
Nay.
Commissioner Porter?
Nay.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Nay.
Commissioner Maddox?
No.
Commissioner Cummings?
No.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wells,
No.
and Commissioner O'Keefe.
Yes.
No should have it. But hold.
Okay, we're calculating the weighted vote.
Noes have it. Fails.
Okay, so the motion to table fails.
Yes, sir.
We're back on the original motion.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question real quick?
Yes,
Is
sir.
Commissioner Caban participating?
He did not make it to
He couldn't make
his
it.
destination.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're back on the original motion to fund the Market Street.
Options 1 and 2.
Yes, options 1 and 2. Board Member Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to say, I'm going to support the motion on the floor, options 1 and 2. It's a good project. My attempt was to try to have the discussion until June 15th, as you all know, but it's a good project. We can still have that discussion on June 15th. But I think in the spirit of endorsing a project that's been a long time running, a lot of good work has been put into it, it's going to be amazing. Proud to support it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Board Member O'Keefe?
Thank you. Just to say, I like the project. I wish I could support this motion. I just fundamentally can't support something we haven't decided a decision on that may take money out of my district, an important project. But otherwise, I can't wait to use this. Once we finish everything else, I can't wait to go visit.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Was it anybody other O'Keefe? Was it anybody else?
Proctor.
And Proctor.
That would be a
Okay.
motion.
Yeah. Motion passes with 2 objections.
All right.
Board members O'Keefe and Proctor. All right. That brings us to item number 5, approval of the Northeast Park project scope, revised project budget, and authorization to advertise and award construction services. Mr. Pingree.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for this. High level, and you just read the item, you see the recommendation and what it does. Oh, you want to have speakers?
Oh, do we have speakers on this item? I'm sorry.
Before staff does anything? or
No.
Staff to do the introduction?
If we have speakers that want to speak on this item, we'll hear them. We'll have the staff do the presentation, and then we'll have discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
And a motion.
Mr. Chairman, point of information, are we voting on this, or does this fall under the scope of our vote at the workshop?
It depends on if that's the direction of the board, that's what we'll direct staff to do. But
So
they're asking us to.
So the pins are pulled from the grenade. I need to know if this is merely rhetorical, but we're not taking action, or did we place moratorium on this item at the workshop?
Right. Well, we're considering this item, but if it's the board's direction to have it, because it's already on the agenda, we've got to take some action on it, either approve it, don't approve it, or have it come back at the June 15th workshop meeting as well. But since it's on the agenda, we've got to dispense with it in one of those 3 ways.
Mr. Chair, I know that you're going to the speakers, but once we do the speakers, could we then continue the conversation about how we're going to deal with this?
Oh, absolutely. That's the intent.
Okay.
It was just to have staff give an overview, and then we'll have board discussion.
Okay.
And determine how we want to
Mr. Chairman,
handle this.
would you like us to do the presentation before the speakers or after?
Yes, before.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Are we okay to get started?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. All right, so thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Yes, this, to be clear, this item is in the appropriate posture for action at this point in time. We do have a brief presentation. Of course, as you'll hear momentarily here from Autumn, this builds on many years of prior IA board action, prior county commission action, and is ready for the recommendation as is outlined on the screen. But with that, I think for clarity and for the benefit, just a few brief slides that'll be pertinent to the discussion.
All right, so the Northeast Park creates a new recreational amenity in the northeast part of Leon County. This project was originally located on Proctor Road, and then the IA board approved the location of the new site, which is just south of Roberts School and adjacent to Centerville Road, on April 8th of 2021. Leon County purchased that property in 2022, and the definition of this park is an area park. So what does that mean? That's kind of in between a neighborhood park like Pimlico Park or Optimus Park and a regional park like Tom Brown Park. So it's a 50-acre parcel, and it's considered an area park that serves the unincorporated part of Leon County, as well as the neighborhoods that are in kind of a 3-mile radius around the park. So the location of the park is in the same area as the Northeast Gateway, but these are separate and distinct blueprint projects. For clarity, the IA board approved the Northeast Gateway alignment of to Roberts Road in January of 2020. And then a year later was the first time that the IA board took any steps towards the discussion of the Northeast Park. The following year, the county purchased the parcel, and today you have an agenda item to consider the project scope, the budget, and the construction. The first step to building a park concept is the development of a facilities needs assessment. The facilities needs assessment concludes with a site program for the park and is based in 3 levels of analysis. One is qualitative research, so that's interviews with recreation user groups, for example. Quantitative research, looking at recreation trends locally and in the state of Florida and nationally. A level of service analysis, identifying the need for parks and recreation amenities in Leon County, as well as the service area for the Northeast Park. And then, of course, we look at the site to see what can fit. That process took about 2 years, and it also included an extensive amount of public engagement, which included a survey, but it concluded in an open house on March 30th. And the concept plan was developed as a result of all that public engagement and those technical analyses. The results of that assessment indicated an opportunity for the Northeast Park to meet a significant portion of existing and future recreation facility needs for Leon County, appropriate for an area park such as this. That includes baseball, softball, courts, playgrounds, and small community facilities. The concept represents the highest and best use of the 50 acres for the existing and growing needs, recreational needs of Leon County. As shown in our concept plan, it includes an access road, which is in public ownership today. It utilizes the existing connection to Centerville Road that's a current farm road. By connecting at that existing location, it provides for the contiguous use of the 50 acres of the park for park amenities, and it also protects environmental features like the wetland to the south of the road and the tree canopy on Centerville. By implementing an east-west entry or exit to the Northeast Park, users won't stack up at a single point. Thus, connecting to both Centerville and Welaunee is recommended. It helps to reduce a gridlock situation when you only have one entrance or exit, and it also helps to reduce idling, which minimizes air pollution. The project cost estimate was originally developed in 2014 at $10 million, and then it was inflated over 2 years, like we do in our budget practices for all of our projects, to $12 million. Over the last 2 years, the facilities needs assessment was completed, which developed that program for the park, and the estimate to complete this project, as shown in the concept today, is $18 million. That leaves us with our recommended action of options 1, 2, and 3, which address the scope, the budget, and the construction. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation.
Okay. And the recommended action then is to approve options, is it 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, the recommended actions for this item as published are for options 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Discussion.
Public comment?
I don't think did we have any?
We have some.
Yeah, we have speakers.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I didn't realize we had speakers. Okay, let's hear our speakers that are here to address the board on this item. First speaker, please.
Our first speaker is Susan Dickerson, followed by Kip West, then Max Epstein.
All right. Hello, Ms. Dickerson. Thank you for your patience.
Giving me this opportunity. My name is Susan Dickerson. My address is 3318 Cameron Chase Drive. I am the Vice President of Killearn Homes Association. Today, I'm subbing for our President, Steve Givens, who is having knee surgery today.
Oh, wow.
I know that he has met with many of you and discussed our concerns, which include the amount of traffic that we anticipate coming through Killearn once this project is completed. Today, we are presented with blueprints designed for the Northeast Park. Once again, we are appalled with the total lack of concern for our almost 4,000 home sites and 10,000 residents. In the first proposal for the Weelaunee Boulevard extension, Killearn Estates would bear the burden of unprecedented traffic incursion. Your board was required to modify the plan in January of 2020 to protect our community. Again, just a few months later, staff proposed moving from Roberts Road to presumably the old Farm Road. Your board rejected that consideration as violating the agreement previously reached. Now we see another recommendation to build a public road collecting Weelaunee Boulevard to Centerville Road as part of the park design. We question why so few Killearn residents were asked for their opinion and why Killamore Lane is used as an example when there is no connection into Killearn Estates from that location. Furthermore, we're not sure what your intention is about where it would connect to Killearn. Now you are faced with another major decision. We respectfully request that you reject the approval for design and funding recommendations in options 1 through 3 and adopt option 4, which I see is no longer part of your choice. The board is fully confident that our position and request is consistent with the wishes of the vast majority of our 10,000 residents, and we urge you to instruct Blueprint staff to revise the design and remove the necessity for legal action by our association. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dickerson. Our next speaker.
Kip West, followed by Max Epstein, then Kendall Powell.
All right, Mr. West, if you give us your name and address for the record, please. You'll
Yes,
have
sir. My name is
3
Kip
minutes.
West. I live on 3069 Carlos Circle in
Okay.
Killearn Lakes,
Okay.
right near our thoroughfare. Just a real quick brief. My background is youth sports in Tallahassee. I've sat on the board of the Levy Park.
Could you
Sheriff's-
speak a little
I'm
closer
sorry.
to the, thank you, Mr. West.
Over the last 20 years through my children and now through things of my passion, I've sat on local area youth boards for baseball, football, basketball, different venues. I currently sit on Tallahassee Babe Ruth, Levy Park, Myers Park, and just want to applaud you guys for finally doing this for the Northeast on this park. Right now, the Northeast has the fewest active parks in all the districts. It has passive parks but not active parks. Our community's been asking for a long time. I sat in the Bradfordville Schoolhouse with Commissioner Deloge, and we had a plan 12 years ago, to purchase, obviously, Proctor Road because we really needed a park. What it has done for our kids in District 4 is it has displaced them being able to play in their communities. Our kids that play for the Bradfordville Bucks Pop Warner football program have never had a park of their own. They have practiced at Childs High School. They've practiced at Miccosukee. They've driven. Our kids have played at Chairs Park. They've played at Northwest Park. They've never been able to have anything that they've been able to call their own for their own parks. From a tourism standpoint, with this recommendation, I've sat on the Tallahassee Sports Council. There's now going to be a quadplex of this new park. It's going to generate revenue for our community. It's going to put heads and beds. It's going to be an important piece because we can have 7-on-7 events there. We can have travel ball baseball tournaments there, and we can have different, from understand, stand volleyball, pickleball events, different things. It's going to be an economic driver for our event. I just want to tell you thank you for staff for recommending this park. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. West. Mr. Epstein, you're up next. Name and address for the record, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Max Epstein, 1001 San Luis Road. I'll be brief. I think y'all should listen to the Homeowners Association and be, considerate of what they have to say. You absolutely need this park. I know, Commissioner Welch, this is something you need. We need the fairgrounds. And I agree that projects like this provide a lot more benefit than these gateway projects. When we have a $40 million increase, $20 million, $30 million, $35 million, that's stuff that can go into smaller projects, and we really need to look at this as part of the budget discussion. I do have a question about when a project does need a supermajority vote, because when you have a project that increases 50% and it comes back, when is it significantly changed enough that it requires a supermajority vote? Because all of these projects are coming in way, way over budget. So we're kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse here. And I think our budget discussion in June will help a lot with all of this. Maybe we can shuffle some funding around. But I think we really need to look at the costs here. I'd like to provide all this stuff. Maybe it's not a Cadillac. Maybe it's a Tahoe, like the top LTZ model of a Tahoe that I still can't even afford. And to Commissioner Proctor's point, when I look at all the capital cascades and the airport gateway stuff going back, there were basketball courts, there were all sorts of other recreational facilities, Jake Gaither and all these other stuff that were supposed to have fixes that aren't being included. So we really need to look at that and make sure this is not north versus south. We have enough money to do all these projects and do them correctly. But again, you go and talk to the kids who live in Alberta Empire, they want a pool. They don't want a new stormwater pond, they want a pool. How do we work to get all of this stuff together? We have the money, we have the funding, we have the projects. It's about priorities. And this board needs to come together and come to whatever deity you believe in moment and do something that's good for our entire community. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Kendall Powell, followed by Gary Hunter, then Herb Orman.
Okay, if we could get your name and address for the record, please.
You got it. My name's Kendall Powell. I'm at 9730 Shady Pine Road. Great to be here. This is actually, this project's brought me down here for the first time ever. So this is how important this is. When I saw what you guys came up with, I was blown away. It was amazing. You know, you see some of the county programming at Chairs, at Canopy Oaks, out in Woodville, and they're overflowing with participants. And it's great to have those options. I'm currently the head softball coach at Deer Lake Middle School. Actually headed straight from here. That's why I'm dressed this way. I'm headed over to Fairview right now to play in our championship game. This will mark my 50th youth team coached. I'm a small business owner here in town, but what I am is a youth coach. We've been waiting on this. And I will say, you know, the Commissioner Welch bringing this to fruition and the change from, you know, Proctor Road over to where it is now to make it make more sense. I'm not so sure Mickey Mouse could have done that. So I applaud you for that. Thank you. The Little League programs, Little League softball, Little League baseball that the county's running right now, they're great. Pop Warner, it's running great. It's truly what we've been waiting on. And real quick, before I go any further, a little bit of housekeeping here for myself. Commissioner Maddox, my mother is a proud graduate of A.L. Brown High School in Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Go Wonders, we just got
So
that, Coach.
she's going to ask me, when I tell her I spoke here today, did you see Nick? And I was like, you don't know Nick. But I think she thinks you guys are besties.
We are. Okay.
But as far as Mr. West mentioned something about some of the tourism aspect of it, and that is certainly a part of it, but it drives me crazy to take, I have 3 daughters that all play softball. It drives me crazy to take them 100 miles somewhere to play another team from Tallahassee in some of these tournaments. And so that'll be one of the first phone calls Commissioner Welch gets from me is, hey, when can we host something, have some of these Tallahassee teams play here, and maybe have someone from Moultrie drive down here, you know, to us. So I know this isn't perfect.
30 seconds.
But we ask for your full support. And I think that there's a lot of people behind me that think the same way. And thank you so much. Appreciate you having me. And I'm headed over to Fairview.
All right, Coach, good luck.
Good luck.
Drive safe.
Next speaker is Gary Hunter, followed by Herb Horman.
All right, Mr. Hunter, we can get your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Gary Hunter with Holtzman Vogel Law Firm, 119 South Calhoun Street, Suite 500, Tallahassee. Here on behalf of Powerhouse Inc., who is the owner of the property, previously owner of the property that is sold as the baseball park or the park to the county, the 50-acre parcel. Also, important to us, obviously, is not what the park ultimately becomes. Y'all are much smarter than I am and can figure that out yourselves, and we support whatever it is y'all come up with. Critical to us is the access road. That discussion has come up, frankly, for the first time as part of this conversation. I will just tell you that for 3 years, my client has, who owns the Powerhouse property there, so the 4,500 plus or minus acres, has worked with the city and county and Blueprint to provide first the Wilani Boulevard right-of-way all the way through their property, the 100-foot right-of-way for Shamrock Road, sell the county the 50-acre park at a reduced price, under the understanding, by the way, that the 17 acres that were sold to Blueprint just south of the park would be utilized for the second access point that the comprehensive plan envisions to Centerville Road. That second access point has long been the consensus, by the way, of my client and Blueprint, at least the staff at Blueprint, for replacing any other access point along Centerville Road. And for the first time, I hear conversations about there being only access from Wilani Boulevard to the park, and I just would suggest to you all, first, that's inconsistent with the conversations that my client had in selling the land to the county and to Blueprint. Second, it's a horrible idea from the perspective that if that road only accesses from Wilani Boulevard to the park, my client still has the right to build a second road, and they will build a second road. My client won't because they're not a developer, but a developer in the future will build a second road, and most likely that second road lines up, if it isn't where the park access road, directly across from McLaughlin. And I love Killearn. My mother lived in Killearn for 23 years, so I have nothing but warm feelings about everyone in Killearn. But I would, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but I would suggest to you that moving the second access point to the Wilani property to south of the flowway, directly across from McLaughlin, makes no sense. Because if you're worried about traffic entering into Killearn, line those roads up, and you definitely will have, in my opinion, again, not a traffic engineer, more traffic into Killearn. Lastly, and I'll say this, my client has agreed to dedicate to Blueprint 28 acres for stormwater ponds outside of the 150-foot right-of-way and 100-foot road access. My fear, and I haven't had this formal conversation with my client, and I hope not to have it, is that 28 acres will not be dedicated if this roadway goes away. So
Okay, Mr.
not
Hunter,
only
if
do
you
they
could
get yes, sir.
conclude.
Not only do they, I'll finish real quickly, Commissioner. Would they get another access point? All of this roadway, as has been designed thus far, would need to be redesigned.
All right.
Because the 28
thank you.
acres would not be granted.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. All right. Our next speaker.
Herb Horman, followed by Mike Wallace. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Herb Harmon. I am on the Board of Directors of Killearn Homes, also chair the Northeast Gateway Committee. I'm going to shock you by saying, Commissioners, thank you for your hard work and dedication. I'm sure that comes as a shock to you. I'm not going to go all the way back to 2014 when the Northeast Gateway project started. I'm simply going to go back to the first design that was presented for the Wolani extension and the reaction from Killearn Homes when they saw it. And I think you'd understand it. The original design phase for the boulevard extension was really met with it was met with anger, and justifiably so. After all, we had the uncertainty of the completion of the exchange at I-10. The extension to Roberts Road was going to be tied up in future Tier 2 funding. And what did that mean? That meant that 100% of the traffic in and out of Wolani, a development that's twice the size of Killearn Homes, was going to bear 100% of all traffic in and out of Wolani. Could you even imagine why we would be concerned? Yes, we were. At considerable expense, our association hired a traffic consultant, and we challenged the findings of Blueprint staff. Ultimately, an agreement was reached in January of 2020. I think that amendment was offered by the mayor, which provided that there would be a simultaneous opening between Shamrock and Roberts Road only. But just in a few short months later, in July of 2020, an option was presented by Blueprint to this board to abandon the connection to Roberts Road and instead substitute it for an opening, quote, south of the schools, or in other words, at the Old Farm Road location. That failed by a vote of this body, and we appreciate that. Now we find that Blueprint and our county commission has evidently promised Powerhouse to build a public road at the location of the Farm Road connecting Wolani Boulevard, once built, and Centerville Road. The purchase and sales agreement, which embodies this language, basically committed Blueprint to purchase the property that the Old Farm Road was located on, which they did, to issue a license agreement, temporary license agreement for use of that road, which they did, and to repave and open that road as a public road connecting Wolani and Centerville Road, which now they propose to do. We have to ask why. We can't understand it. The traffic studies don't indicate a requirement for this road. Wolani Arch Master Plan does not require the road. The road was never included in the planning until the Northeast Park was presented. And probably what's even more serious, this would place more traffic on the very road that this project is supposed to protect. It doesn't make any sense. The entrances to the park from Centerville and Wolani don't require a connected public road connecting Wolani Boulevard and Centerville Road, as you well know. It can be constructed for an entrance from either end. It's not required. We must assume that this is for the benefit of the developers. We implore you, the Blueprint Board, to again correct this egregious mistake before public trust is totally lost in Blueprint.
Time.
Totally destroyed. Postpone approval of this design and funding until the threat of a new public road connecting Wolani Boulevard and Centerville Road is eliminated. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Herman. Our next speaker.
Mike Wallace, that's our final speaker.
All right. Mr. Wallace, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please. You'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Mike Wallace, and I would like to exercise my protection under Florida Statute 119.
Okay.
As opposed to my address.
Sure, sure.
All right. So I am here, I represent the Board of Directors of Big Ben Pop Warner, and more importantly, our association, the Bradfordville Buccaneers. For better than 15 years, we have operated as a volunteer organization as a licensed provider for football, cheer, and dance in the county. Our association, the Bradfordville Buccaneers, has gone through a lot of growing pains, and our largest area of the county, and quite arguably our entire city here, have not been able to access parks like the rest of our neighbors. We have spent, some years we have spent upwards of $6,000 to $8,000 to rent private fields, to rent fields owned by the school board. We have spent a lot of money, and therefore the impact, the negative impact to our organization has been significant. We have worked very hard over the years. I remember something Commissioner Proctor told us when we first came to the county. It was like, don't come back anymore. And we have only increased over the last 15 years our registration fees by $35, which is unheard of anywhere. We provide a service to our families and children, not only for sports, but we are an academic program. And there are kids on the north side, the northeast side of town, who are not participating because it is not convenient, or because the parents have to work so hard to try to raise the money before they play the first down of football, before they cheer. They have to raise $6,000 or $7,000 to go and rent Child's High School for practices. The economic impact sports to our community is undeniable. As we see at Appalachia Parkway, the things that occur there during the cross-country events and all the many sports events that are being hosted out there, the economic impact is great. I understand that there are going to be some growing pains, some people that will have to change the way we operate at times, but let's think about the greater good of everyone, to include the folks that I represent, the folks that choose to have their children participate in a top-notch national program. I beg of you to follow staff's recommendation on item number 5, and we appreciate all that you do and continue to do for the citizens of this city and this county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wallace. All right, we've heard all of our public speakers. We've heard the presentation from staff. Board discussion. Board Member Welch. Oh, I'm sorry. I got you in the queue, Board Member Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to beg your indulgence for a second, if I can. This is, it's crazy complicated, man. I'm not a politician, you guys. This is not, I don't take joy in these complicated, three-dimensional conversations about what we're doing to serve our community, our kids, man. It breaks my heart to sit here and listen to Mike Wallace and Kip West and Kendall Powell talk about taking their kids all over this town. We talk about equity. There ain't a single baseball field in Northeast Tallahassee. Not one. Miccosukie's the closest. But that's not exactly close to a population center. Our kids go everywhere. Levy Park, Myers Park. My kids playing at Myers Park at 6 o'clock tonight. That's a 45-minute drive from my house. And so I think it's important to understand that I cannot look at Mike Wallace and Papa Warner and say, we ain't got a field for you. We ain't got nothing for you. Little League, we ain't got nothing for you. I'm going to tell y'all a story, and I sincerely appreciate your indulgence.
About 6 years ago, my son, who's playing at 6 o'clock, was 6 years old. And we're playing in a league at Roberts Elementary School, T-ball. Ain't no fields at Roberts Elementary School, guys. It's a backstop, maybe some dirt if you're lucky. You got to walk 200 yards from the parking lot to get to where you're trying to watch your kid play. Commissioner Proctor, we talk about not having working bathrooms at the fairgrounds. I think that's appalling. I agree with you 100%. We didn't have a bathroom at all. My 85-year-old grandmother had to walk to a porta potty 100 yards away to go to the bathroom. And I sat there in that situation, and my heart breaks just like for these people. It broke my own heart. My 85-year-old grandma trying to watch her great-grandson play baseball, she's got to go to a porta potty. Now, I live in northeast Leon County where the taxes ain't cheap. And we ain't got nothing. Y'all, we got nothing. There is not a baseball field in northeast Leon County, aside from 2 fields at Miccosukee Park, which are not close. And at that very moment, it's when I committed myself to doing this. At that moment, that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to do what we all talk about all the time. Let's do something. Let's put our money where our mouth is. And I ran for office. That moment is when I decided to run for office, because I thought this was unacceptable. It's appalling. Little did I know that 6 years later, we'd be looking at a piece of property 100 yards from where I was standing that day, and I made that decision. I had no idea that's how this would shake out, okay? Now, I know that this is complicated. I know we have competing interests, and we're trying to save money, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. But like I said earlier, everything I do in this position is, I don't care about the politics. I don't care about the personalities. I don't care about any of that. I don't talk much up here. I don't stand in front of cameras all the time. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm trying to advocate for the people I serve. As simple as that. And it is so hard sometimes, man. I'm telling you, it's hard. Y'all know it's hard. I got Klarn mad at me. I got people need fields for their kids. It's a lot to deal with, and all I care about is serving my constituents. And this park serves my constituents. I cannot tell them that we got nothing for them. So I'll die on that one, on that hill. When it comes to Klarn's concerns, I feel entirely sympathetic for them. I totally do. I have met with them multiple times. I'm on the phone with them all the time. I am keenly aware of their concerns. I don't understand how they think the county and Blueprint are trying to railroad them. I promise you that is not what I understand the situation to be. The item says the road does not have to go there. I got a lot of reasons why this park needs to happen. And this is the last stop. I mean, we approve this tonight, this happens, this rights a wrong. I got all kinds of talking points. I can go on and on and on. I don't want to have to make those talking points because I trust in the good faith of my colleagues that you understand what those talking points are. We as a board, as a county commission, as a Blueprint board, we've taken a lot of steps to get to this point where we're at the final. God, it breaks my heart, man. We're right here. We are right here. All right, we got to say yes, and it's done. We're cutting checks. We're turning dirt. And this would be fixed. But I realize it's more complicated than that. So I think supporting Klarn Estates, I think that is an easy thing to do. So I assume we'll chew on this for a minute. But I want to make a motion for the staff recommendation with an amendment to close access on Centerville Road to make Killearn Estates feel better about this park that will serve their 4,000 homes. I would ask your indulgence in that regard. It's an easy thing to do. We are building, as it is, sits now, a $135 million road on the other side that can accommodate entrance and exit. And so I want us to support Killearn Estates. But I also want us to do everything we can. Let's find it within ourselves to right this wrong. My kids drive to Chairs Little League. It is overflowing. Our softball players have no space. Our baseball players have no space. Our Pop Warner kids have no space. This facility will accommodate a generational benefit to Northeast Leon County. It can't be understated, and we have made it this far. We have made it this far. We are on the precipice. And so I ask, please, not only that we move the motions, the staff recommendations minus the road cut, but that we move this project forward now. It is long, long overdue. 17 years, the county has owned property intended for this kind of stuff, active recreation. In 17 years, we have added home after home after home after home to Northeast Tallahassee, and all of those people have to go to Myers Park or to Levy Park or Meridian Park, which is busting at the seams, not in my district, not really a Northeast Leon County cannot participate in Little League unless they go to Canopy Oaks or they go to Chairs, which are both bursting at the seams. So I would please ask, humbly, respectfully, that we right this wrong. And we give this park to the people who so deserve it. This is generational. My kids won't be able to play in it. My grandmother will not be able to use its restrooms because she passed away last year. But my grandkids will. And I look forward to that. So I beg your support for this item to move forward as a county park that Northeast Leon County needs and deserves. And I thank you for indulging me. I apologize for my emotions. I did not anticipate that happening, but when I saw those people speaking, I'm sorry.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
There's a second to the motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, there's a second to the motion with the amendment that the road not be included from the Centerville site. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Welch, Board Member Welch. There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Board Member Maddox, Board Member Cox, Board Member O'Keefe, and then Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to say I appreciate the passion with which Commissioner Welch made his motion today and his personal experiences to have been able to do this today must mean a lot to him. But I think back, and I can't say that
Sorry, Carol.
I can't let the moment pass without talking about just other passions in the room, like Commissioner Proctor, who shows his passion in a different way. But when we get to that item of the fairground, what we plan to do, and Commissioner Williams-Cox, when we talked about Capitol Park and the field there, the passions may be different, but the need and the thoughts that you relayed are exactly the same. I also couldn't let the moment pass by without saying that one of the first things I heard when I took office 12, almost 13 years ago, was the need for a Northeast Park. And I'm always about paying homage to those who come before us. And Commissioner Welch, you get the opportunity to sit there and say you fought for it and that you brought it home. But I don't think any of us can sit here and say that we didn't watch his predecessor, Commissioner Deloge, do the same over years, especially you, Mayor Daley, do the same over the years to try to bring that same part to fruition. And so, wherever he is, want to give him credit for his hard work, but want to credit you, Commissioner Welch, for taking that torch and bringing it home. The Killearn folks, we've been here before, and we made it right for you the last time. And my hope through the motion that's in place right now is that we'll make it right for you this time as well. We will figure out a way to get this done. I think for you not to just have the park, but to enjoy the park and understand that the traffic won't be placed on you is something that we have to figure out how we do from here on out. You know, it's something to be said about the passion that we have when it comes to our children and the conditions that we like for them to have and the type of environment that we like for them to grow up in. And I just, you know, Mr. Sims brought up earlier about that little boy that I was, and I just don't want this moment of passion to pass by without us understanding that in this moment of passion, we have to have it not just for the opportunity that's going to happen for those children on the northeast side of town, but also for the things that have been asked for at Capitol Park. We got those restrooms that Miss Shauna talked about that you're scared to go to because you got to fight through in the woods to get there, and even the fairground where Commissioner Proctor has time and time again talked about the fact you might freeze to death before you get to the bathroom that's outside. But all in all, what we're doing here is a good thing, and I ask that we be able to move it forward and thank Commissioner Welch and his predecessor for the work they put in us getting here to approve a Northeast Park that would be able to be enjoyed by the folks in Northeast. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Maddox. Board Member Williams Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me say to Commissioner Welch, I feel your passion. 30 years, unelected, unpaid. I beat the streets to try to find equity. I drove across town, 30 minutes from the south side of town to the north side of town to play ball with my 3 sons. And, you know, I've shared this story that in the city of Tallahassee, I told you my knowledge of baseball is very deep. When it comes to recreational sports, for football, my boys play football, basketball, and baseball. For football, the city is divided into 4 quadrants, and you play whatever team was in your quadrant. Basketball, you sign up at a gym, and you just go from gym to gym, and you play wherever it is. But baseball is that little carve-out where you got to have a council of league presidents. I know this because I was a league president, one of the few females, and we had to go in there and determine who would make all-stars and who would be waived. And so when I talk about that, one year our park had to be closed because we didn't have enough players. We drove over to Meridian where they had 9 teams. Capitol Park had 2 teams. That's nobody in this room's fault. But what I'm saying is all children should have the opportunity, and all children, no matter where they live, should feel as though they have a place to call home to play. And it should be comparable facilities. So I get it. I get it. But it's not only athletics that we've been fighting for in these streets for 30 years. It's equitable education, housing, all kinds of things. That's not your fault. That's no one on this board's fault. But I'm just saying, we're constantly trying to level the playing field somewhere. And so I can appreciate what you're saying. As I said to you during the break, I am not against the Northeast Park. I represent the Northeast as well. and I do want the Northeast to have a park. We voted for there to be a park. The issue that I have is we're going from 12 million, a park for $12 million to one that by some estimates could be up to $22 million. And so I'm trying to figure, once the debt is serviced, that's what I'm understanding. I'm trying to figure out how do we end up with a park for $22 million, but we can build one over in Southwood for $3 million. That include baseball fields, and I know that the fields you're interested in are the 60-90s for the older kids. But if we could, that includes cricket, pickleball, walking trails, all kinds of things. I just can't see how we have such a great gap in doing that. So, as someone said earlier, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I can count some dollars. And if we're talking about need and not want, then we need to satisfy the need first. And the nice to haves can come later, because the park will grow. As the population grows, the park will grow. But right now we have nothing. And I want there to be a Northeast Park. I want kids to be able to play baseball, football, basketball, whatever. And I'm not pitting the North against the South. I'm just saying that we're trying to level the playing field. We're trying to make all parts of town equal and look right. And because children don't determine this, we do. And so $12 million is what I saw before this meeting, and now we've gone, and I know costs have gone up in a lot of things, but if we can build a park for $12 million, and I heard that there's like $2 billion that's sitting over there that can be moved over now, why can't we start there? Why do we have to go to 1822? Because right now we got zero. So that's the question that I have, and maybe that's the question of staff. Can't we build a park for less than that?
Okay. Board Member O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, I think about, we've had, as everyone is well now aware, we had a pretty big agenda, pretty big packet, and I was looking over all the projects, and I was thinking about how hard it is sometimes to imagine what something will look like when you're done, to decide if that investment is worth it. I was talking to someone about when my wife moved into where I lived, and she said, this old place has to be renovated. And I couldn't get with putting the money up because I just couldn't picture what it would look like when it came out. Some people have that vision, accountants generally don't, but we have our part. And my point in saying that is, this park, as I look at it, is, it's huge. It's, it is physically huge, but it is also something that is not up there. And I think about what is that whole area going to look like? What is Weelaunee up, the Northeast Gateway? What is all of that going to look like? And whether we voted on whether you voted on for it or against it or not, or you like it or not, all those developments are going to be made. And I think that if we don't move forward on an important park like this, which creates an important third space, an important community resource for kids and families, we might just, and we keep waiting, we might just end up with all the developer houses and nothing for real community. I am looking forward to hopefully pushing this forward.
All right, thank you, Board Member O'Keefe. Board Member Matlow, and followed by Board Member Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the motion on the table. I would say, in respect to Killearn, I mean, they're right. When we had this conversation, when we unpack, first off, the Northeast Park is completely separate from the Northeast Gateway and what was promised there. They shouldn't be tied together. The park will be a great asset for the community, and we need to move forward. But when this project was first proposed, and it was just the Shamrock extension, when Killearn was concerned about traffic in their neighborhood, we had hundreds of people speak out, and while they were concerned it would increase traffic into their neighborhood, what we come to learn from the traffic study was this $40 million roadway wasn't even going to serve that much traffic without new development at all. So when the agreement was made that if Shamrock Road extension happened, connected all the way to Roberts on opening day at the same time, some of that further north traffic would use that and not force traffic into the neighborhood. And that was the agreement, which, but full disclosure, I was against that as well, because I don't think these roadways were needed. I think they're just largely subsidizing new development with the Wilani expansion. But that being said, that's what people were told. That was the agreement that was put into place. That was the promise this board made to Killearn that if we did Shamrock, we'd connect to Roberts, and at least Blueprint wasn't going to build other connections along the way that would force traffic into their neighborhood. So that's why I can support the motion, and it may not be best planning, but we shouldn't have told people we were going to do one thing if we weren't going to do it. And, we've heard comments from the representative from Powerhouse, I think. Frankly, this is a $135 million roadway that, with the Wilani Comp Plan expansion, tremendous value to the landowners in the area. I mean, you can't say that Blueprint hasn't increased the value of all the property. We appreciate the relationship and the donations, but to say if we don't connect this road, we're somehow doing something that should be a negative reaction, I think is pretty ludicrous. But I mean, back to the park infrastructure, I completely agree. It's needed. I mean, I've been hearing about this since I first ran for office, the need for more sporting facilities, more recreational facilities. And I agree, it should be all over town. It's one of the things we do as government. It's what people look for. The City of Tallahassee has some of the best parks in the nation. We're 100% proud of that. We need to continue to develop them on the south side and the north side and everywhere. We don't need people driving, 15, 20 miles across our city to get to one. If we want, we can reduce traffic on our roadways just by having the facilities nearby the population center. So I support the motion on the table. Look forward to getting it done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Board Member Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Mr. Pettigrew and his staff for bringing us this particular item for our consideration. I remember a couple of years ago when Commissioner Welch asked that we advance this particular item because of the lack of park recreational areas out in the Northeast, and we supported. We as a board supported that. So I appreciate Commissioner Welch as well as Commissioner Deloge, who was his predecessor, who had shown some great concern for a park in the Killearn area. We appreciate his passion, his tenacity, and his fortitude in getting this before the body today. And I also want to thank the citizens out in the Northeast, the Killearn Homeowners Association, and those that came and spoke, Max Epstein and those others that came and spoke to us today, because I think it demonstrates by the motion that's on the floor now and the concession that Commissioner Welch has made about deleting the Centerville Road connection. It demonstrates that we as a board, we listen. We're here to represent the citizen. We appreciate you coming out, but we listen to you and we listen to your concerns as well. So, Mr. Chair, I think we all recognize that when this penny sales tax was voted on by the citizens of Leon County, and I supported it as well, and the board made the decision for a certain amount of the funds to be used for infrastructure and the other for economic development, I think we can attest to the fact that we have, as representatives of the citizen, supported that portion of the sales tax to support and improve the infrastructure throughout Leon County. So I support the motion on the floor. However, I think I would be remiss if I didn't, or perhaps maybe the entire board, if we didn't try to explore Commissioner Cox's comment about a similar park that was built on another section of town for much less. Now, I'm not sure when it was constructed, if it was contemporary or if it was a few years ago, but I don't think we as a board can ignore her concern that, in fact, perhaps we might be able to construct this park for millions less. And perhaps that's something we can, Mr. Pettigrew, maybe address when we have our workshop on June 15. And perhaps, I don't know, looking at him, they might have already explored it, and this might be the final analysis. But I am in support of it. I do believe that the citizens in Northeast shouldn't have to travel 45 minutes for a baseball game and vice versa. I think our facilities on the east side, west side, south side should all be comparable. And that's what I believe this penny sales tax was designed to do. And I think we here as a board, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we do that. So thank you, Commissioner Welch, thank you, board members, and thank you, members of the community, for coming out.
Mr. Chair, can I respond to her question about when the park went online?
Can you get with her after the meeting?
Sure. Okay, I thought the public might be interested,
I would
but.
like for the board. Can she address, let us know, 'cause I'm not.
Okay. If you want to address it real quickly.
Okay, the ribbon cutting was, I believe, March of this year.
Yeah.
The park that you were referencing for $3 million, that was built for $3 million?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. May I just ask one other question? So is that something that you think we can address at our workshop, or do you believe it's something that is incumbent upon us as a board to address it?
Absolutely. The city Parks and Rec staff, underground utilities, and many others worked together collaboratively and created this park for $3 million. Now, I'm not saying that that's what it'll cost up in the Northeast, but I'm just saying that it could be less than 22.
Okay. Board Member Daley.
I appreciate it, and this has been a great conversation.
It really has.
This park, my goodness, Commissioner Proctor, Nick, I think you were on the board too when we first started this conversation down Proctor Road. Remember that? The county brought the property. The Northeast Park was going to be the passive park up there.
100 acres, yes, sir.
That's right, 100 acres, and then this commission has decided to sell it, bought the property in Wilani, where currently we're talking about building a park in the whole 9 yards. And I wholeheartedly support a Northeast Park, absolutely. This is fantastic. I cannot vote for this agenda item, and I do not support this agenda item. And I'm pretty emphatic about it. Now, I can count noses, and I think I'm going to be on the short end of this, but I got to dig in on this one. And I honestly do not know how we got to where we are. When you look at the language that is currently on the website right now, on the Blueprint website, and I'll read it to you. This project, Northeast Park, provides for the creation of a park in Northeast Tallahassee. The park will be located along Centerville Road and adjacent to Roberts Elementary and Montford Middle School. As an area park, it will serve the needs of multiple neighborhoods, generally within a radius of approximately 3 miles in the rural community in Northeast Leon County. The park will be approximately 50 acres and will incorporate a mix of active and passive recreational opportunities. Leon County has thankfully we do appreciate, stepped up to the plate to be the organization that runs the administration. Folks, this is not an area park. This is a regional tournament ball facility that is going to be built in the heart of a residential area, Wulani, across the street from Killearn, on a 2-lane Centerville Road. This is a $22 million park. It was even testified by some of the coaches, who I appreciate their passion, that they are looking forward to petition the first regional tournament at this facility. This isn't just baseball fields. This is bullpens, batting cages. This is covered grandstands out to watch the games. This is not baseball fields. What I don't understand, and I appreciate the great work that Kimberly Horn does, and my question is, I read through that report several times, and it references in the report how they surveyed the unincorporated area. I am still struggling to see, and my question is, within a 3-mile radius of this property is one of the largest neighborhoods in Tallahassee, Leon County, and was the city residents also included in the needs assessment. And when we take the needs assessment and we ranked what the citizens say they wanted from 1 to 12, baseball landed at number 11. Yet the largest proportion of this park is not only dedicated to baseball fields, but a travel facility. And let's call it for what it is. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and smells like a duck, it's a duck. This is a travel facility, and let's make sure we understand the size of this. Commissioner Williams-Cox is absolutely correct. City of Tallahassee just cut the ribbon on an area park of 50 acres. This is what I always thought we were going to be building up here on the northeast side of town. It has a 6-court pickleball facility. It has sand volleyball courts. It has a basketball court. It has 4 of the smaller baseball fields that face in, where the outfield creates a multi-field playing area, which is also doubled as a cricket pitch, soccer fields, and flag football as well. On our outfields, you can fit, and I checked with the manager right before this meeting, 3 smaller youth soccer pitches. Let's be very clear. If you bring up the picture of what is being proposed in scope, you can fit, and let's bring the picture up, a matter of fact. Colleagues, I am looking at in our agenda item on page 140, you will notice you can fit 3 smaller soccer fields in the outfield of 1 of the 4 baseball fields being created. This is a regional travel ball facility. We need one in town, definitely. We don't need one in the heart of a residential area on a 2-lane canopy road. This is the facility that we've been talking about, Commissioner Proctor, building down at the fairgrounds. This is the facility that we've been talking about on the major intersections of, Monroe Street, Tennessee Street, the major access points bringing people into this community, not in the middle of a residential area. City of Tallahassee built an area park for $4 million. This is $22 million? Folks, we could build 6 of these parks. I think it's important for us to come together and say, yes, we truly want a Northeast Park. And I think if we went around the table, we would all say unanimously, absolutely. And that's what the voters approved. But the voters also approved an area park to service the neighborhoods within a 3-mile radius and the unincorporated, not to serve the North Florida, South Georgian regionals of a tournament. I think we need to keep this into consideration. Now, my response is that we do not need to spend $22 million on this park. I agree, Commissioner Williams-Cox. I mean, we did it for 4. We could definitely do it for 12, which is the original budgeted item. And I'm willing to go there for 12 because I do know the cost of construction have come up. Commissioner O'Keefe, you want to know where the extra millions of dollars that was just taken away from your Lake Lafayette project for the Market Street District can come from? Right here. Absolutely. Because if you're not spending $22 million, which, by the way, borrowing an additional $2 million on top of the $20 million investment, it just doesn't make sense. If we want to take a pause, agree to a $12 million limit, go back to the drawing board on an area park, have a town hall meeting with Killearn and the other neighborhoods in the area to truly identify the amenities that they want, I'll support the motion. If it's the motion on the table, I'm going to respectfully not be able to support it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can
Board Member Minor.
Well, that just totally changed what I was going to say.
Lord.
I think we need to have a thorough discussion of this on June 15th.
Okay.
You know, I think at the very beginning of the workshop, we talked about this. There's incredibly thick binder here with a lot of projects. Many of them are having increases in scope, increases in cost. Some of them, in some areas of Tallahassee, are having their projects cut in terms of blueprint dollars, not including the leveraging of FDOT dollars and such. There's a lot to go through. A lot of competing interests. Commissioner Welch, I hear you. I hear you. With people driving 45 minutes to get to a game, you know, insufficient restroom facilities, I hear you. You know, but I drive on North Monroe, and there's the decline that we've all seen in the #1 gateway of Tallahassee, a decline in the general appearance of where everyone comes into our town for anything, whether it's the legislature, et cetera. I mean, it's we've got to do something. Crime, shootings, human trafficking. There's a need there. Restrooms at the fairgrounds. I mean, the Jurassic Park of fairgrounds, right? All these are very highly competing needs, and I want to have a discussion about this. I support Commissioner Welch in the park, and we need this park, but I want to have that discussion of what specifically we do with this within the context of the rest of the budget. I think that's the right way to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Board Member Proctor, and then we're going to finish out with Board Member Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mayor Daley, his comments were the questions that I was asking on the front end of our meeting, whether or not this item would be exempted from the overall moratorium or cease and desist recommendation that he had on our spending money or agreeing to spend money prior to it being integrated into a big picture consideration on June 15th. I asked whether or not the pins had been taken out of the grenade, and this is alive, it can happen. And I see that it is happening. But consistent with the mayor's admonition, and I've not done fact check on the points that he's raised, but being our mayor, I trust, and I know the length of time that we've set, along with Commissioner Maddox, that we've poured our minds into these issues and have seen evolution over time. It's very interesting to me that I've heard it said that at this year's Major League Baseball All-Star game, there was not one African-American baseball player representing any team, any skill position. And I'm not sure if Major League Baseball, in a de facto sense, has implemented a policy of anti-DEI, or why baseball does not have, Major League Baseball doesn't have African-American players any longer, notwithstanding the representation records that they hold, how well they played the game in previous years. That got nothing to do with this, except that the kids down South Side don't have a park. Certainly nothing at $22 million. And when you look at kids as they graduate up, and Coach Wallace, much respect for Coach Wallace, and my admonition that y'all not come back to the county for no more money, and you guys took that to heart, and you became self-sufficient, and you needed that one helping, let's get the domino to fall, and you guys have done wonders. Wish others would have that kind of giddy up, but many don't. You have, and I commend you for taking that seed money that first year, and you guys ran that ball well. But I would like to offer the motion that the mayor did not put all of the words that he had captured, because there are more fundamental questions that I have, and today's meeting is not. Even in the statement of the issue, I've learned that an electric vehicle charging station on a 50-acre site adjacent to Centerville Road purchased by Leon County for this project is a part of. And I didn't know we were going to have a gas station on the county's property. I was totally unaware, but it's right there in my face under the first paragraph of this item. I see other comments that have been registered that I did not do the kind of due diligence that Commissioner Welch obviously has done, but this park is coming with restrooms, and not just the restrooms, but restrooms with attached community room and concessions that don't exist. It's not that I don't want the children of the Northeast to play ball, eat, and have restrooms. I'm not against the children. But I want to feed my children someday, and I don't want for the South Side taxpayer to have to pay for and to see those ships go sailing by as we pay for the enlargement of the Northeast, and our children don't have attached community rooms, picnic pavilions, and all the goodies listed here on page 137. So I'm not against kids eating, but I have to feed the children. The proctors eat first. They eat first. And this does not, to me, align with that thought and that idea. And I'm not proud, commissioners, to say, and Commissioner Welch, I've never had quite the passion to overflow as yours has today, but there's probably nobody in the history of Tallahassee been run over and voted down more than me in the 26 years I've sat in this room. I'm sure I have been run over, voted down, voice not heard, not included, and I didn't think to bring a handkerchief with me to fully state how hurt and how bad it feels not to get none when this kind of money is being spent. So Mayor Daley, those words that you said to table this for more robust, and I'm not against the Northeast Park. I was for the Northeast Park when we bought that property on Proctor Road. I was for it. That church wanted relief. I'm not so sure if they wanted a park, if they just wanted relief. I think they wanted relief better than we wanted a park. The idea had not come up. It originated, the Northeast Park originated out of a church trying to raise money to get out of some bad property.
That's the part.
Am I right?
Correct.
So that we've been hearing about the Northeast Park for so long, look, that was not an idea of clamoring for a park. That was some folk trying to get out of some debt. That's how it started. Now, I hope that we're able to accede to the advice coming from the mayor. And as we talk about the deprivation of the Northeast children, as Commissioner Welch was speaking, I was pondering that the kids don't have a baseball field, but I wonder how many backyard pools are in the Northeast. I was wondering how many tennis courts are in the backyards of the Northeast, some things that the children are not completely deprived of. The neighborhoods do have some pools, some tennis courts, and then I was trying to think about, Mr. Mayor, how many of those pools and backyard tennis courts privately funded do the children have? And so I make that motion that we would look at this further, including the mayor's comments and all like that, and punt till June 15th, because today, and notwithstanding the passions we've heard and felt, but today, my children, until I understand how mine gonna eat, I can't vote on nobody else's children getting more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I make that as a motion.
All right. Well, we've got a motion on the floor, unless it's a substitute motion. The motion is to accept staff recommendation with the exclusion of the entrance from Centerville Road to the park. That's the motion on the floor.
Offer substitute.
Is yours a substitute
Yes, sir.
motion? Okay, there's a substitute motion and a second. Discussion on the substitute motion. Board Member Welch, and then I'll come.
What is the substitute motion, Mr. Chair?
The substitute motion is to continue this item until our June 15th workshop.
Actually, point of clarity, it is different. All right, may I ask, maker of the motion, you're including my comments to bring the cost of the project back down to 12 million?
Yeah, all of the stuff.
Instead of as proposed at 22 million and going back to the original scope of an area park and not a regional facility, correct?
Well,
So
Mr.
you
Mayor,
want
I
that to
heard
be a
what you
part
said,
of the
and I
motion
included.
now, rather than us have that discussion at the workshop on the 15th, where we're going to
Wouldn't that be
discuss.
scaled within your debt reduction notion on?
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I was thinking. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So just to be clear, the substitute motion on the floor is to postpone action, adjust the budget to 12 million, and what else, Mr. Mayor? Oh, and go from a regional park to an area park. That's the motion on the floor.
According to Mr. Pingree, this is an area park.
Correct.
Either way it go, it's reduce it to 12 million,
Yes.
area, regional, whatever you want to call it. It's reduce the budget to 12 million and postpone action. That's the motion.
Until the budget,
Okay.
until June 15th.
All right. Thank you.
So the motion, let me clarify your motion, Board Member Proctor, is to, and so you're suggesting that the cost be reduced to the 12 million here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. So the motion is that the item be continued to the June 15th workshop, and it come back with a price tag of $12 million.
Original proposed cost.
That,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification, so this is silent on the connection. It's leaving open the Centerville-Wilani roadway connection?
I think staff heard that. Y'all heard some of those things, right? Looking at the alignment of access from Centerville being cut off or sealed.
okay, so you want to keep that as part of your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So it's still in there.
Okay, so just to
Board Member
clarify,
Blackwell.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yes, regular.
So for the substitute motion, it will include no road access from Centerville?
Right.
Okay, but there would be
12.
access from Wilani Boulevard to the
Yes.
park?
$12 million and continue the
Reduce the programming to a $12 million level
Right.
and bring it back at the June meeting.
15th workshop.
Well, this is a regular meeting item. You want us to bring it back in the regular meeting for action?
Well, we can do it as a meeting if we have to do it. We just need to be legal. So we'll bring it back as a regular meeting item.
Yes, sir.
To the workshop, then to the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be both.
Yeah.
It'll be
Mr.
both.
Chair?
It'll be like what we had today.
Right.
We'll have the workshop, then we'll have that one meeting item, board meeting item.
So the original.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Board Member Welch.
Well, I'm disappointed in specifically the mayor's characterization of this park, which is frankly purely opinion. According to our professional staff and our professional outside staff, this is an area park. It is almost identical to the park you built, literally and figuratively in every way. It has bullpens, it has dugouts, it has covered areas for seating, it has concession stands. It is no different for all intents and purposes than the city's park. It is a
$6 million increase from 12 to $18 million. Characterizing it as more than that is not fair because the remaining amount of money is debt service.
Debt service.
I understand that. I think that the demonstrative way that that was characterized as some kind of travel ball facility is so egregiously wrong. There are not grandstands. This is not a stadium. This is an area park no different than the one you just built in Southwood, sir. And characterizing it as such is derelict to the needs that are unquestionable. Unquestionable. The amount of swimming pools and tennis courts in people's backyards should be irrelevant. We are talking about equity. We are talking about access to facilities. This is not anything different or special. You can put, the fields are the exact same size. You can put the same size field in the outfield for every soccer pitch, every whatever. Cricket pitch, they're literally the same size fields. They are convertible and they support play from the age of 6 to 18. 6-year-olds can play there and 18-year-old adult leagues can play there, sir. Any characterization otherwise is ridiculous. And to suggest that we lower the budget to $12 million on this park is a direct disgrace to the people of Northeast Tallahassee, who we have covered already so deserve this facility. It is an egregious mischaracterization to say this is some kind of special facility for the people of Northeast Tallahassee. This is a $12 million facility that the budget went up to $18 million, just like every other project. You want to talk about saving money for Commissioner O'Keefe's project? Where's the $50 million that's going into Weelaunee Boulevard? $50 million. $6 million is where we're going to find the extra million, but $50 million we're not even going to talk about. I will not support the mayor's motion. I think it's an embarrassing disgrace to the people of Northeast Tallahassee who deserve this, who have fought for this. If you guys want to come back on June 15th and talk about it, that's fine. That's fair, considering the actions we've taken. But we should not limit the budget prematurely here without taking into consideration the other projects that are way over budget that we have spent and we have dedicated enormous amount of time and dedication to. Let's put it all on the table. Let's put it all back on the table. Let's talk about Airport Gateway. Let's talk about Weelaunee Boulevard. Let's peel off some money from those big projects so we can actually grow quality of life amenities in this county. It's not fair. It's a disingenuous conversation. To characterize this park in that way is an absolute disgrace to the people of Northeast Tallahassee. They should be absolutely infuriated because they have waited for 20 years. Yes, Commissioner Deloge deserves enormous credit. That park on Proctor Road was not just a church getting rid of a property. That was 100 acres only, which 50 were usable, that was firmly intended to be an active park, sir, not just a passive park. The plan was for it to be ball fields because your county commission years ago recognized this need. We've all at this table recognized this need. We know that this is important. And yet here we are trying to come up with ways to scuttle it. For what? I don't understand why we're in this posture.
Okay, we're going to bring this in for a landing. Board Member Porter, and then we're going to call. Everybody's had an opportunity to have their input. We're going to bring this in for a landing. Board Member Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I don't live in the Northeast. I don't have kids. I haven't been a part of this for many years, as almost everyone else here has been in one way or another. I'm not sure if there is, and I agree with a lot of the comments made on many sides of this issue. I'm not sure if there is any openness here to, I bring this up a lot at the city, and I'd like to, and I know that Blueprint is different, but I like seeing options that we can pick from. And so I know right now the motion, as I understand it, is capping the budget at 12 million. I would feel, on the one hand, I don't really feel comfortable moving forward entirely today. On the other hand, I'm more open-minded to seeing what options there might be at different budgeted levels. So that's not what the motion on the substitute motion on the table is. I'm not sure if that's something that the maker of the motion or, that we would want to entertain. I see the need. I see the need there, the desire, the benefits. I think in the spirit of having that discussion about the other projects, as part of that budget discussion, I would personally like to see there be options when we return to the June 15th meeting, because I don't want us to repeat this conversation. If there is more information and more options about price engineering and prioritizing and having that conversation with the Northeast community. So I'm not sure if there is an avenue for that or an appetite for that by this board, but I think that's somewhere meeting in the middle so that we know what options there are. My main concern right now is as long as the transportation aspect, that is satisfied. My concern, I do have some concerns about the cost, but that is not just for this project, that's overall a holistic discussion. So I don't know if there's any open-mindedness to having staff come back to us with some options at different price points based on some feedback from the neighborhood or based on more feedback from Commissioner Welch or others. I guess I want to find a way to make this work holistically with the budget that we have and having this conversation with the other projects that we're discussing. So that's where I'm at, and I'm not sure where that leaves me based on the motions that have been made.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We're on the motion.
Hold on. So you want to just check and see if we have
Yes.
Commissioner Caban?
Yeah, I mean, he will be here in time to vote. I don't know how he votes intelligently because he hasn't had privy to the discussion, but.
No, the number I was provided by his aide is we're trying to get him, but it's not going through.
Okay.
And he
All right.
is 7 hours ahead of us, I
Yeah.
understand, so I don't know how he's feeling, but I've been in this room for a number of hours myself. So I hope that we can go on, keep moving.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to continue the item until the June 15th meeting, a reduced price tag to $12 million, and the cut from Centerville Road will be eliminated. Did I get
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Aye.
Roll call.
Mayor Daley?
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow?
Nay.
Commissioner Porter?
Nay.
Commissioner Richardson?
No.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox?
No.
Commissioner Cummings?
No.
Commissioner Minor?
No.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Welch?
No.
Commissioner O'Keefe?
No.
Motion fails.
Yeah. Okay. We're back where we started.
Mr. Chair, can we go ahead and take up the original motion, Mr. Chair?
Go back, we go to the original motion.
Yeah, can I call a question on the original motion?
Yeah, you can.
Call a question.
Okay. All right, the question has been called on the original motion made by Commissioner Welch to move forward with
Get a different scope.
the funding of the park at 18 million. the
Mr. Chair,
area
that vote
park.
has to be seconded and voted on. I can't just call the question.
I thought there was a second.
It has to be voted on, sir.
To call the question.
To call the question. Oh, okay, right. Is there a second to call the question?
Second?
He did.
Okay, there's a motion to call the question, seconded by Board Member O'Keefe. Questions, discussion, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
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 Roll call
This is on the question, correct?
on the question.
Mayor Daley?
No.
Commissioner Matlow?
Aye.
Commissioner Porter?
No.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams-Cox?
No.
Commissioner Maddox?
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings?
No.
Commissioner Minor?
Yes.
Commissioner Proctor?
Nope.
Commissioner Welch?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Keefe?
Yes.
I know, hold on. Is it two-thirds motion?
Yeah, calling the questions Tuesday, 44.
All right, hold on.
We got a parliamentary issue here.
Call the question requires a 2/3 vote.
All right, so by my counting, the weighted voting is 34 yay, 31 nay, which does not meet that threshold.
Mr. Chairman,
Board Member Daley.
for a substitute motion, I would motion, instead of putting a dollar amount cap, that we postpone to the next budget, but we revise the scope going back to the original intent that was approved by the voters, with staff providing options for consideration.
Second.
And cut out the road,
Okay.
cut out the access.
Who seconded that?
Proctor.
Okay, Board Member Proctor seconded the motion by the mayor. Any questions, discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Wait.
A question, Mr. Chair.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
The motion, Mr. Chair.
We have questions and discussion on the motion. right?
We haven't had discussion yet.
I don't understand
Okay.
the motion.
Could you restate the motion?
Sure. Ms. Pingree, will you go back a slide?
Go back a slide.
Proposed fiscal year 2024 budget, estimated cost of $18 million. The 23 budget estimated cost of $12 million, based on the current concept plan. I am making a motion that we postpone taking action to the next meeting and have staff bring us back options to consider as a concept plan. One of those options can be basically a blueprint of Four Oaks. We have this blueprint and maybe some options in between with baseball opportunities. That is the motion that's on the table. The concept plan needs to be revised back, and that's what I'm interested in seeing. So it would be postponing action with basically a revised concept plan.
To meet the $12 million.
No, the body has spoken that they're not interested in putting a cap on it, but coming back and discussing the needs of the community and what they want to see in this park, the concept plan.
On point, Mr. Chair. The current, Mr. Pingree, the current scope is based on the current concept plan.
Yeah.
And if we're not putting a cap on it,
Correct.
it's the same thing. I'm just confused on what the motion is. Are we reducing the scope of the plan? Because my understanding is we've been on this trajectory for this park, and it's been the same all along, and we haven't changed it since the last time. I'm just confused about, we're saying we want to reduce scope of the plan as an option, is the motion. It's not that we're looking at, I mean, I'm fully in favor. I mean, we've had the concept plan. Let's keep it. There's a little wordplay here. I'm not really sure what you're asking for.
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure that the residents out there know exactly what they are looking at and what could be available. For instance, a Four Oaks versus this facility that's being proposed. And I think there needs to be a continued community conversation. And I'm not quite convinced that the survey that we did captured the elements. And quite frankly, let us remember, based on the elements that were captured, baseball came in number 11 out of 12. So what we have here does not even represent the needs. Let's make sure that we're getting it right. I think, again, we're all in favor of Northeast Park, and we know this is going to come to fruition. If it was easy, it would have been done a while ago. It is not ready for showtime. We need to keep working on this.
Are we trying to eliminate baseball fields? I'm just trying to figure out what the direction is.
Not at all. For instance, if you look at Four Oaks Park, and if you have not been there, I highly encourage you to go to, and it is different. The baseball parks at Four Oaks, if you want to get technical, are not built from a center out like a clover with the concession stand in the middle. It is built from the out in with a condensed area which can be multi-purpose fields in the middle. It is different. There are different concepts on how you could build these parks. We happen to have done one for about $4 million and not $22 million.
$3 million. And my grandson plays at that park, so I'm very familiar with that one.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
So there's
They're just talking.
Okay, okay.
I'm going through the chair. Please.
Board Member Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your management of this meeting. Thank you. Once again, it's just a terrible misrepresentation. They are the same thing. The fields facing in or facing out does not make a difference. You can fit full-size soccer fields in the outfield of these fields. You can fit a full-size, don't forget there is a full-size football field, okay, to the north. So it is not true what you're saying. The parks are almost identical. Almost to the T identical. And I have been to Four Oaks Park. I have walked around it and paid very close attention to it. It's very nice. Congratulations, City of Tallahassee. However, to characterize this park as different is just malfeasance. They're the same thing. And we are on the precipice again. We are just delaying for no good reason. We're just making up a reason to delay. If the goal is to create a soccer complex, let's just say that, or whatever the angle is here. All right, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I think I do have the ear of the residents of District 4 pretty well. I think I know what they would like. And I think this park and our professional staff and our professional consultants derived that information very well. I do think it fits the need very well. And I think any delay on this park at this point in time, or any mischaracterization of it like that, jeopardizes its future, sir. And I don't want that to fall on you. I don't want that to fall on anybody. This is a real opportunity to do good for the community. Now, if we want to come back and vet this out June 15th, we can do that. But we cannot do it from an unfair position suggesting this is not an area park. This is almost identical to the area park you just built.
On point.
I'm still going if you don't mind. The county programs specific things that this park will facilitate, like Little League and Pop Warner, where we know we have needs. So, look, if the city is in the park building business, that's awesome. That's news to me. I wish you'd have built one 45 years ago in Northeast Leon County. All right? And if we're going to be fiscally responsible, then we can be fiscally responsible and we can look at that on June 15th. But to characterize this park as anything less than an area park that the people of District 4 would not fully, holistically support is absolutely misleading and completely disrespectful to the people of Northeast Tallahassee. Completely disrespectful.
On point.
I know what they would like, sir, and I know that this park fits those needs, and our professional staff have built a scope that meets the needs. So if we want to hash it out again in June 15th, that's fine. That may be the goal here, but I'm going to die on that hill defending my folks in Northeast Tallahassee, who I'm sure would be overjoyed with this park, as has been testified to in this room.
On point, Board Member Daley, and then we're going to bring this thing in for Orlando. We're going to take a vote.
I've had this up for a while. I've had this up for a while.
Well, you weren't accused of malfeasance, so let me have a word.
After you, Mayor, sure, but I won't be on the queue.
What I'm not going to have is an argument back and forth. If you guys want to argue the issue,
Too late.
That is not part of the discussion.
Mr. Chairman, what I was simply
We're not going to argue the issue.
I understand. Let's just forget personal opinions, forget staff. Let's look at the expectation of at least one coach who testified before us today. He is looking forward to travel tournaments.
Yes.
And not having to go to Bainbridge to come play. And if it's not a travel facility, we need to do a better job of managing expectations of what this facility would be. But I do support having a more detailed conversation with options.
There is no such thing as a travel facility, sir. Baseball facilities are travel facilities. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I know. I understand your emotion and your passion.
Unbelievable.
Mr. Welch.
Yeah. You're not helping yourself.
We've got a motion on the table. let's go ahead and take a vote. I don't know that we need
Point of
additional.
order. I believe Commissioner Miners had his thing up for.
I am chairing this meeting. Now, if somebody wants to take over this position, you do it. I have been very tolerant and patient. We've been here for 3 hours, and we're saying the same thing over and over and over. I don't know that anybody's position is going to change with another conversation.
That's our job. It's our job to be here.
Right. And it's my job to chair the meeting.
Mr. Chair, it's your show.
All right.
Take the vote.
Chairman, point of information, sir. I really don't understand, and we did with the Cascades Park initially. We didn't understand who was going to be in charge, who was going to run it. I don't know, have we contemplated who owns the dirt, whose park is it? Is this the city's park? This is the information, I'm hopeful of clarification. Is the county paying for some dirt and the operations? Is the
Then
city?
would you restate the motion that's on the table?
Me?
Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, Ben.
I will. I'm not sure I can.
Okay. Would you restate
We don't know.
the motion that you have on the table?
Postpone action to the June 15th meeting for further discussion with staff bringing options to the table in regards to the scope of the, forget scope, to the design layout
To the design.
Okay,
of the park.
okay,
And Mr. Chair, I believe this is a substitute motion.
Yes.
yes.
And Chairman, can we get some information on who's going to own the park and run it, operate it?
The motion is,
That'd be all.
the motion is that we continue this item to the June 15th meeting and that the staff come back with design options. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Nay.
Roll call.
Let's do a roll call.
Mayor Daley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matlow,
Nay.
Commissioner Porter,
Nay.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams-Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Maddox,
Nay.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Nay.
Commissioner Proctor,
Aye.
Commissioner Welch,
No.
Commissioner O'Keefe,
No.
Commissioner O'Keefe. What was Commissioner Welch?
Welch and O'Keefe. were
No. Commissioner O'Keefe was no.
Yeah, Christian, you don't want none of this.
You need 30
Motion fails.
Hold. I believe you got Commissioner Caban on the phone. That level worse, he wants to take a vote, put it on speaker and put it to the mic. Hear him.
Commissioner Cabana, are you there, sir? Okay. Welcome.
To the mic.
There is a vote being taken at the moment to continue this item until the June meeting and bring back programming options. That's the motion on the floor. Would you vote for that, yea or nay?
I would vote to push the vote until June 15th, yes.
Okay.
You would vote to do that? Okay.
Yes, I have some comments if comments are being taken.
It passes now.
Okay. The vote passes. Thank you. Board Member Caban. Well, the vote has been taken. It's passed. The item will be brought forward, will be continued until the June 15th meeting, and staff will bring back design options at that point. That was the motion that was.
Who runs the city? To me, this is a fiscal issue. It's a dollar amount issue. There's a rule in business that business partners and mentors of mine have always said. And when business, you hear complaints and you hear bickering and you hear arguing amongst business partners, really in three different ways. One, when business is good. Two, when business is bad. But when business is just chugging along, no one really says anything. So for me, I mean, I think what I've seen today is either business is good or business is bad. But I have a hard time supporting a park that's $22 million when I have kids in my district in Tharp Street walking dirt past sidewalks, and I had to reduce my project by damn near $20 million so that we could get this project moved up 10 years. So when we talk about quality of life, no, we can talk about the south side and the southwest side, and we have kids in Title I schools walking every single day with no sidewalks. I would love to see park on the northeast side, and I'm looking forward to a robust conversation on it on June 15th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Caban. All right. That covers, I'm sorry, apologize for that.
Is that a hot dog?
That covers all of our business items from the agenda. We're on director position, and if you all would indulge me, I've got to escort my daughter to 2 events this evening, starting at 6 o'clock. Fortunately, one is at the Civic Center, but what I wanted to do before I left was to ask if staff would bring us back a recommendation on the funding request from DOMI in our OEV non-competitive projects. And this will just be for us to consider when it comes back
Motion on the vote.
at the next meeting.
Yeah, is that a motion?
Yes,
It would be a
yes.
motion.
I'd second it.
You can call for the vote.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries unanimously. And Board Member O'Keefe, I think you had a similar motion?
I do. I think we can all get behind something, food. We have delicious local restaurants here. And I think every week we see in the news another one's closing up shop. I appreciate Dustin Rivette stepping up with a creative idea to help support our local restaurants. And I move that we ask staff to evaluate the viability of his request for the Foodies Takeout local restaurant.
Second, Mr.
I
Sheriff.
second that motion.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carries unanimous. Any other issues from board members? Board Member Porter and then Board Member Welch. And are you in the queue, Board Member O'Keefe?
After all them.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if, I wanted to make a motion that the Capital Cascades 4 be brought at our next meeting.
Thank you.
As we requested, just an update on what's going on with that I believe we already requested, but maybe hasn't come back to us yet.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second. Is there a question?
Discussion. Looking at Alderman Ben, because in my briefing, we had a discussion about this. And do you want to share what that discussion was? Which is why I didn't bring it, because of the update that I received in briefing.
Okay, well, just real quick on Cascades 4, it was in one of our prior meetings, that date. I think it was the December meeting. We provided the concept plan in the receipt and file for the IA board's review. I think it was in 2021, the IA board provided the direction to do the design. So we have the IA board's authorization to move forward with the design for CCT4 now. So if we were to bring anything back, it would be just a status item.
That's fine with me. I know we got our briefings, but there's interest from the public, and I'd like to see it in a meeting.
Are there any other comments? So what, I'm sorry, there is a motion on the floor to vote on?
Yeah.
Do you want to clarify your motion?
To bring back a status update on Capital Cascades 4.
Okay, great. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Oh, thank you, Commissioner Porter. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Yes.
Here, oh,
Thank you. We'll preface this with this motion has nothing to do with budget, moving anything. We talked about, Mr. Pinger and I talked about this. The Lake Lafayette Trail, the reduction is because an extension has been deemed infeasible. I'll skip over all my talking points. What I would like to ask staff to do is to look at what alternative path might be feasible for the project. My understanding is that doesn't require any money to go in or out to study that. In particular, the goal I still have is, instead of going all the way out to St. Mark's Headway, is at least to have a pedestrian and bike-safe pathway from where we have one ending at Connor and Appalachia and reach the Appalachia Regional Park for a number of reasons, and I'd like to make that motion for staff to look at that, come up with some suggestions.
Bring back an agenda item at a future
Correct.
meeting, sir?
Yes.
Understood.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Any opposition? Agenda item will come back. Is there any other comment from commissioners?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Good meeting, man.